Okay, now this is a PlayStation Move. Now for the past month I've had many attempts to try and make a review for the PlayStation Move, and most of them have actually gone on for too long. The first time I was trying to make a review with every single game, but that went on for 2 hours and looks a bit tedious to edit, so I left that one. Then I had a second attempt with a 2-camera setup. I made sure all the cameras were charged, I made sure everything was right, there was enough space on all of them, and then I ended up recording for 40 minutes. Now I don't know about you, but I don't fancy sitting on that computer and just sitting there editing 40 minutes of straight video trying to find something decent to review about the PlayStation Move. So I'm going to try and do it in one video, one attempt, and I shouldn't have to edit this at all. Now you'll notice that there are still jump cuts because I still bollocks my lines up. But in the meantime, let's try and make the quickest review for the PlayStation Move ever. Go! PlayStation Move! There, overdramatic title sequence finished. Now this is a PlayStation Move. This looks like a dildo, but it's a better dildo design. Okay, let me elaborate on that. Now unless you're actually spectarded, you will know that this is a Wii remote. Now the Wii has been very famous in the fact that it's revolutionised the way people interact with their consoles. The only problem with the Wii console is that it doesn't work well. It's good for parties and family enjoyment, but a gamer like me who likes to geek out over the different physicalities and accuracy of games, I noticed that this is not good. This marks the birth of PlayStation Move. Now let's go on to some of its designs. Let's move up closer to the camera because I like doing that. Now this is the PlayStation Move. You have a few things. You have the move button here, which is kind of like the X button if you had a controller. You've got all the shaped buttons on here. Now the nice design about this is that if you tilt it that way, diagonally, all the buttons correspond right. So X is there, circle's there, is it? Yeah. Square and triangle are there, so it looks like a normal thing. So they've orientated it correctly, so you kind of get used to where the buttons are. Of course, you've got the PlayStation button for switching it on and doing anything like that, and you've got the new button, which is the trigger button. The improvement from the Wii to this is that the trigger button, of course, is pressure sensitive. So, say for instance on Start the Party, you have a paintbrush. Now if you hold it lightly, you do small paintbrush marks. If you hold it big, it's so you're splashing the paintbrush onto the actual thing itself. And it's really nice to use. And of course you've got the select and start buttons on either side. The select button is mainly used to calibrate the actual dome on the top. Just a bit more about the actual controller itself. It does come with a little strap, which is kind of identical to the Wii's version, but it doesn't come with it on. You do get warning messages saying please put the strap on, please make sure you've got enough playing area, which you do need. I'll get onto that in a minute, but I keep the strap off because you really don't need it and it just gets annoying after a while. Because the design of it gets, you've got the actual big bit at the top and then it actually gets bigger by the bottom, so it won't actually slip out of your hands, not to mention that the actual material of the PlayStation Move is nice and grippy. A common misconception that people think that this is a big plastic dome. It's not actually a plastic dome, it's a rubber dome. It's a squeezy dome. So you can hit it on your head and it doesn't really matter. So if you're playing next to someone, don't be afraid of hitting them too hard, just be afraid to break this. And just to make sure that it looks as much like a dildo as possible, it's got vibration on it. Now while I am in this angle, I will show you about the optional extra controller that they do sell for £15 in the UK, of course, the navigation controller. Now the navigation controller is good to use for things like first person games. I used it in Heavy Rain the Move Edition demo, and it's very nice to use as an alternative to the controller, because you can use the controller. Not all games like say you must have this or you have to have the controller. Oh. Games are designed both with this and the controller in mind. Literally an optional extra, and Sony let you know that. You're not forced into buying it. Now what it has a really nice analog stick. It has an actual button on the analog stick. You've got X and circle, which is really crap with the Tiger Woods demo that I played. Not nice to use because X on there and X on the PlayStation Move controller and on the normal controller meant 3 different things. They needed to sort that out. They might have fixed it by now because they didn't have left-handed on the demo, so I had to use the bloody Move controller with the right hand on the demo. Anyway, I digress. You've also got the directional pad if you need to do like menu options and stuff, although you can do that with the Move. More about that in a second. You've got another PlayStation controller to switch it on and stuff, and of course you can tell that they are inclined to like right-handed people more. I'm a left-hard, so it says L1 and L2. They're very pressure sensitive, and the L2 is actually a trigger now as an alternative to the actual controller itself, which is nice to use, much more good for shooting in games. But that actually brings me onto a point. It's L1 and L2, so really they want you to hold it in your left hand because they expect most people to be right-handed to use the controller. Now I'm left-handed, so that means the complete opposite thing. Not good. What was I going to say? Now, with controls on the PlayStation Move, the one great thing you can do is not only to play on games, but also what you can do is use it in menus. And you don't have to have a controller or a navigation controller to actually use the PlayStation Move on a menu. For instance, I don't think I've shown you on here, if you're on the crossbar menu, on the home menu, all you have to do is hold the trigger button and then just tilt it up and down and move it left and right, which is really good to use. It's not the most accurate thing in the world, I have to say. I do get frustrated at times, but it's really nice to use. You don't have to feel the need to get out your controller just to change something on the menu. You can actually do it really easily on all games with that. That's the other thing as well. Anything that you find on the PlayStation Move feature, you will find on every game. The select button will usually be the calibrate button. Calibration is usually when you have to point it at the screen, press it, and then and it does this. And when it does that, it calibrates to see where the dome is. Oh shit, I've broke it. Fuck, you piece of shit. Calibration is never an issue with the PlayStation Move. The actual PlayStation itself has a utility for recalibrating the actual magnetic controller inside. It takes about 10 seconds. And games themselves like Sports, is it Sports Champion? That has its own calibration for the actual dome itself, but literally that takes 3 seconds. And in other games, you just calibrate it when you begin the game, you just press it, you just do that. Now, just a quick note on the actual sensitivity and accuracy of the PlayStation Move. Now here I've got a really big screen recording of Tumble. Now Tumble is a precision game, and rightly so because the PlayStation Move is that accurate. Now here is where I've tried to superimpose me as a comparison to what's happening on the screen. Now as you can see when I'm moving about, just try to ignore the muted audio of me trying to speak. This was an early attempt to try and actually make the video. It didn't work quite well, as you can tell. So I'm just using that as an example, and this is how accurate the actual move is. It's really good to use on a precision style game because the actual magnetic motion sensor inside the controller is 0.2 millimeters? And you can actually tell that because your every single move is picked up by the actual game. So of course when you move up and down, left and right, also the thing to note is 3D space. The Wii controller can only do 2D space. When you move towards the actual Wii, things don't get bigger or smaller as though you're in 3D. But with the invention of using a camera with a controller, it looks very accurate, and when you move it backwards and forwards, it looks very good indeed, because it's in 3D space. The only problem you can find is that the camera needs to see the colourful dome at all times. Most games have the red light on the camera programmed to actually come on when it can't see the dome, and most games will actually give you a warning when it can't see the dome because it drastically deteriorates the accuracy. In other words, it goes shit quick. If I had a quid for every time I heard that one. I'd just like to point out at this point that I have actually been highlighter raped in my media class, just to solve any confusion as to what the f is on my hand. Anyway, so apart from having to show it at all times, which you can get used to really easily, the actual PlayStation Move is a very accurate little gadget indeed. So I can't remember what I've said now. I think I've said everything. The other thing that's good to know is that the PlayStation Eye picks up this dome very well. If the game you're playing doesn't need the camera to actually use a visual picture of you, then you don't actually have to have any light in the room. Because it only just looks for the glow of the dome, you don't actually need to play in a well-lit room. If you're playing something like Kung Fu Rider, which takes pictures of your reactions when you lose or fall off the chair thing, or you're playing iPad and it needs to see you in order to interact, or with Start the Party, just so you can see what you're doing, then you do kind of need a good balance of light. But if you're playing any other game that doesn't need to use the camera to see you, only the actual dome, it's perfectly fine. It just needs to see where you are. In the meantime, I've shown you how accurate it is, so I'll make a very quick conclusion. Now this is disregarding the navigation controller for a moment, and just talking about the actual Wii. The Wii? Fail. Now, just a little witty anecdote for you, and a warning as well. When it says at the beginning, make sure there's enough play space around you, make sure there's enough play space around you. Because I was playing the Ubisoft racket sports, and I was getting really enthusiastic about a first serve of mine. I went like that really hard, and I heard a massive smash. Now my house is eco-friendly, and I have some energy-saving light bulbs. Well, now I have one less because I smashed it to bits. Basically, it has a sort of gassy substance in it, which kind of turns to powder when you smash the shit out of it. So it looks like I was running a drug den because I had white powder all over my room. So I've got a new bulb in place now, but I will show you what happened to my Move controller. Take heed from this warning, because I'm not happy with it, and I'm sure you'll have a good lol at this. As you can see here, there is a slight chip there, where it actually has cut from the glass, which is not too bad, it's not sharp or anything, but more importantly, there's a really big gash in me dome. Now, the one thing to note is that if you do damage the dome in any way, not the end of the world, it's just a little rubbery dome. If you do have slippery hands, then maybe think about putting the strap on. I said strap on! And the PlayStation Move does not come with its own condom. It really doesn't need it because it's very safe and grippy. It's a very big that's what she said moment, isn't it? Anyway, on to the conclusion. There will probably be 2 styles of people, possibly 3. Now, the third style of person who's watching this is, well, that's shit, I don't want to buy it. Well, go your mom, because I don't really give a shit if you don't want to buy it. But if you're not that third person, then do listen up. If you weren't sure how good it was going to be, then I do recommend you go out and get it now, because it's around October now when I've made this video, and most of the games are actually now being released. It's only the launch games, but some of them are pretty good. Have a look at the demos on YouTube. They're all very good demos because they show a person using the Move as well as the actual advert of the game. There are a few really good ones. I would recommend getting it. If that's the only problem you had, I can tell you right now, the Move is very good, very accurate, and very lovely to play with. If you knew that it was going to be okay, or you weren't sure, but the main problem for you was games, then I could say that you might want to leave it till about January next year. Not many of the companies have actually been able to develop anything with the actual Move controller, and you only have most of the games made by Sony because they had first dibs on it, obviously, and Ubisoft and EA Sports are only managing to start games out with it now. So if you're worried about not getting any games and you want to save your money for now, or you want to save it for a Christmas present, then that's fine. Do wait to buy one. It will be worth your money once the games start coming out. You've got Killzone 3, Little Big Planet 2, Tumble is a good game, only £7 on the PlayStation Network. Echo Chrome 2, Heavy Rain's okay, but if you've already played it and finished it, then there's no point. It's a lot less harder than having to go, quick circle, 2 seconds, you know. But yeah, it's very nice to use. Have a look at the trailers and other reviews if you want to, if you think this is shit. If you have any questions at all about the actual PlayStation Move, I'll try to answer any comments that you might put on the video. It's best to go on my Facebook. You know my name, Stephen Jackson, by now. You'll kind of recognise which Stephen Jackson it is because I have a weird face. Email messages, private messages on YouTube, because I do realise that this could be a shit review. Now I'll just quickly tell you about retail. If you have a PlayStation Eye, then all you need to do is buy the actual PlayStation Move. I think it's around £35 for a controller, which is not bad. It's worth the risk, as opposed to the Kinect, which is £120. They do a starter pack, which is £25 for the camera, £35 for the actual dildo itself. I bought it on release day. I was the first person in Stockport to buy it, and the only one. There was no queue. I went to get a sausage roll, ate it, 10 minutes later, went in, still the first person to buy it. She looked at me a bit weird when I didn't want to buy any games because I only had money for the flipping thing. Tiger Woods Golf is £10 off when you actually buy a Move console or with anything in store. I was like, no thanks. She's like, really? I was like, yeah. Oh, you got a reward card. Do you actually have enough points to buy one? Do you want to? No, I want to save my 6,000 points, thanks. I got 15 quid on that bad boy. Anyway, pedo face. Now that it's been out for a while, they're actually starting to do game packs or game bundles, so I'd go for a game bundle. I'll tell you which, I'll do a review one day, which means never, but you know, one day of game reviews of the Move. But do just look at reviews and look at the trailers as well and make your own decision. You have to buy the navigation controller separately. That's only £15, and if you're going to buy games like Heavy Rain or wait for Killzone 3 in the future, then do buy it. But of course you can buy it at a different time. But I hope that's been very helpful to you. I've finally done a bloody review. But in the meantime, thank you for watching the PlayStation Move review. Hope it's been of help to you, and au revoir. Cue some stupid thing on top of my head now. No, it's a bit of a good dildo. It's, oh shit, nearly dropped it. PlayStation Move. But in the meantime, that's all you penis. PlayStation Move.